A deputy sheriff is ambushed in the dead of night.
It's one of the saddest cases I've ever seen.
This guy needs to be found immediately.
Lieutenant Captain Dispatch.
The race to find his killer
Let this be a warning to every police officer out there.
leads to an ominous manifesto
He will not hesitate to kill anybody that gets in his way.
and a deadly showdown.
Humans can do very evil things. Police all put ourselves at risk every day. That's why I never left my house without telling my wife I loved her, because I might never get another chance.
Majestic Pikes Peak. Nestled in its valley to the east is the city of Colorado Springs. Perched along its western slope is Teller County.
It's a small county in comparison to the rest of the counties in Colorado. It's a very, very tight rural community primarily.
There are a few of us that live up there year-round, and there's a whole bunch more that have vacation homes.
On this crisp fall morning, Teller County Undersheriff Dick Geisen is headed into work when his radio crackles to life.
This is dispatch to K-19. This is dispatch to K-19. Can you hear me?
Geisen realizes the code name belongs to one of his deputies.
K-19, please respond.
Dispatch, this is Sheriff Geisen. What's going on?
We're having trouble reaching K-19, Deputy Holloway.
There was a fire scene, and there was some suspicion that it might be a suspicious fire. A deputy was stationed there to guard the scene overnight in the event that it was anything other than a normal fire.
We haven't heard from him since 6 a.m.
Normally, when we leave a deputy, they check in hourly, but he had not done so in the last hours.
Copy that. I'm not that far away. I'll swing by and check on him. Over.
So I drove out to the scene. I saw his car parked there. Found him situated in the seat, kind of leaned over. It could have been possible that he'd dozed off.
Hey, Deputy. Holloway!
He calls out, is sort of puzzled about why he's not responding.
Brent! Brent!
Once he gets to the car, he realizes why.
No way you can prepare yourself to walk up on something like that. It was a grisly scene. I checked whether he was alive or not. And it was obvious that he wasn't.
Dispatch. I've got an officer down. K-19 is down. Repeat, K-19 is deceased.
I'd seen death many times as a detective and all, but you don't figure walking up on one of your own deputies and finding him like that.
We're gonna need some serious help up here. Dispatch, get in touch with El Paso County.
Copy that.
Meanwhile, in Colorado Springs, at the El Paso County DA's office, Chief Investigator Larry Martin is just starting his day.
Martin? It was early Monday morning. I received a telephone call from the dispatcher.
We have an officer-related shooting.
Here?
No, Taylor County. The undersheriff at the scene is requesting your help.
Okay, what's the location? Teller County has a small sheriff's department, so when a major crime would occur, they would typically call the district attorney's investigative staff for assistance. Okay, thanks. I'm on my way.
Martin is extremely experienced with enormously complicated cases, including officer-involved shootings. They couldn't have picked a better man.
Hey, thanks for coming, Larry.
Yeah. What exactly happened?
It's a deputy of ours, a young man named Holloway. He appears to have a gunshot wound to the head.
Deputy Brent Holloway is about a 2-year veteran of the department. Law enforcement was to be his lifelong career. And he was one of the very nicest and best officers that we had on our department at that time.
Brent was a young officer, just loved his job, loved law enforcement. His wife was a nurse. He was happy with what he was doing.
Any idea what he was doing out here?
Yeah, some cabin burned last night.
This fire occurred at 1 o'clock in the morning. A resident in the area smelled smoke, saw a glow in the dark, and summoned the Teller County Fire Department. They thought it was suspicious. They placed Holloway at the scene to protect the potential evidence until they could return at first light.
Did he shoot himself? Is it possible, accidental or otherwise?
To be honest, we really don't see a whole lot of that around here.
There's not a lot of violent crime in Teller County, so it was suspected that maybe he had committed suicide.
Martin and Geisen turn to the scene itself for answers.
What do you think?
It's awful large to be a handgun.
The wound looked like it had been made by a large caliber weapon.
His service pistol is not in his holster.
No, I don't see it beside him either.
There's only one conclusion to be drawn: murder.
See, he must have been shot through the window this way.
They also discover cigarettes in the ashtray. He is smoking and has the window down for the smoke to leave the vehicle.
It was obvious to me that Deputy Holloway never knew that the assailant had snuck up on him.
The shooter most likely fired into the officer's face from very close range. What is the possible motive here? Right now, they have no way of knowing.
I realized that we need to get a lab team up here to investigate the scene. Teller County did not have their own lab because of the size of their department.
Hey, Larry.
Larry and I have known each other for 40 years. For him to be calling me that early in the morning is extremely odd.
What's going on? Is everything okay?
Receiving the news of an officer killed in the line of duty is a punch in the stomach. It's startling. It's one of us.
Maybe you can send some of your guys out here. That'd be great. We just don't have the resources to do what we need to do.
My immediate statement to Larry was, whatever you need, I will provide.
Lieutenant Kenda, dispatch.
As Kenda orders his forensics team to the scene in Teller County, word of Deputy Holloway's death makes its way to other law enforcement agencies in the area.
We had a lot of local support from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, Colorado Springs Police Department, and support from all the federal agencies. Everyone was there.
When the police officer has been killed in the line of duty, they will respond by whatever means is necessary to include their entire agency if required. We protect our own.
Around 9:15, Kenda's team arrives at the crime scene. As they begin processing Deputy Holloway's cruiser, Larry Martin devises a plan to track down the shooter.
All right, folks, we're looking for anything unusual. We believe the son of a bitch is still in the area, so we want to use extreme caution because he's probably armed as well.
We got a very large area to be concerned with here. So I need to make sure that the teams are working together to help search all these cabins and even search the woods to see if maybe a suspect is hiding out somewhere.
Thank you so much for being here.
Over the next several hours, the officers canvass the area.
This is a remote mountain covered in pine trees and underbrush. It is rough. It is very, very rural. And there are any number of places where someone could easily conceal themselves in these woods.
They wanted every home cleared and every vehicle looked into. Any place that the suspect could be hiding, he wanted searched.
Unfortunately, the search yields no evidence related to the shooting. But Larry Martin has a nagging feeling.
More and more as this investigation goes on, I'm of the opinion that this fire scene and the death of Brett Holloway are connected somehow.
Is it in fact an arson? Arsonists often like to admire their work. Perhaps he did return, and he was afraid that Deputy Holloway might have seen him.
So I called my arson investigator, Lynn Chance.
When I got there wasn't much to see. In the business, we call it a black hole. The top floor had completely burned and collapsed into the lower floor of the cabin. Based upon my preliminary scene investigation, we couldn't find anything that was obviously an accident.
One of the major concerns of arson investigators is that the owner has ignited the property to recover the insurance value. Is this an insurance fraud case? Is it possible that the homeowners decide it's necessary to kill the officer to prevent the discovery of that? When the homeowner arrived on the scene, he was very angry.
No!
What's going on?
This was our vacation home. We're sunk.
So how long do you own this place?
But as they talk to him, they discover there is no insurance policy on this property, and they are able to confirm that. That eliminates any possibility of fraud.
Though the cabin's owner has been eliminated as a suspect, investigators soon get wind of another person of interest.
One of my investigators, Mark Kors, came to me.
Sir, so we came across something kind of interesting.
He had been interviewing some of the volunteer firemen. He learned that Officer Holloway had some words with one of the firemen by the name of Walt Mercer.
He says they became enemies over some incident that occurred at a fire.
Well, is that enough to kill somebody? I don't know.
Mercer was actually out here last night fighting the fire.
Walt Mercer knew that Deputy Holloway was dispatched to guard that scene that night.
Is it possible that after everyone left, Mercer returned and took his revenge on his enemy? Feuds have a tendency to simmer until they explode into violence. We are investigating the Teller County Sheriff's deputy shot to death while guarding the scene of an arson fire.
Federal investigators have been digging for clues at this cabin in Teller County. It burned down early Monday morning.
Martin is in charge of this investigation. He has finally determined there's a possibility of a suspect and a volunteer fireman named Walt Mercer.
Mr. Mercer, thank you for coming in today to speak with us.
Had him come in for an interview about the argument he had with Brett Holloway.
Could you tell me exactly what the beef you had with Deputy Holloway was all about?
Are you talking about the emergency thing? That was nothing.
Walt Mercer told us that it had to do with calling a Flight for Life helicopter in on a call and whether that call should have been made or not.
I mean, things got a little bit heated, but that's it.
Mercer says they had gotten past that. It was just an argument that was eventually resolved.
Our disagreement about the helicopter was a one-time thing. We got over it. We were just joking together last night. When I found out this morning that Brent was dead, I still can't believe it.
Mercer reports that after the fire, he went home and went to bed and never returned to the scene.
Walt Mercer was very cooperative, but you still want to verify what he's telling you now. How do we do that? Well, let's talk to Deputy Holloway's wife. She wouldn't know if he had any problems with Walt Mercer.
But before Martin and Under Sheriff Geisen can interview Brent Holloway's wife, they have some gut-wrenching business to attend to.
Death notifications are extremely difficult in any situation. They are somehow infinitely worse when it's a fallen comrade.
No.
Kelly.
Please tell me he's okay.
Brent was shot last night, didn't he? He didn't make it.
The loss, of course, was very, very deep to me. We were just so bonded together. I just thought that we would always be married. We would always be a couple. It's like a part of you is torn out.
This was a tough case because we all knew Brent. The day before Brent was murdered, he had been in our office talking about the cruise that him and his wife were getting ready to go on. And he was really happy. And then it's gone.
Kelly, I'm Larry Martin from the DA's office in El Paso County. We're here helping on this case. because we really want to do what's right by your husband.
They were very apologetic and said, I hate to do this to you, but we still have to ask questions of you.
Can you think of anybody that would harm Brent?
No. I mean, he got along with pretty much everyone.
What about Walt Mercer? We heard they had a fight about something.
No, Walt, no way. I mean, they had a few work disagreements once or twice, but they were very good friends.
Walt Mercer was a great friend of ours. Him and his wife lived maybe 2 miles down the road from us.
I know he would never hurt my husband.
She believes there's absolutely no way Mercer could be involved in this. So Martin and his investigators now believe that Mercer is no longer a suspect in this event.
If you can think of anything, just give me a shout.
That was one of the hardest times of my life. That not knowing who would have done this.
It is a rare thing to have a victim as innocent and as well thought of as Brent Holloway. At least at this point, the likelihood is that his death is connected to this fire and not through some personal issue involving Holloway's past.
After speaking with Kelly Holloway, investigator Martin decides to expand the perimeters of the manhunt. Later that day, that move appears to pay off.
Hey, what's up?
Just talked to a team member, says they probably got some good information.
The investigators tell Martin that they've contacted a resident who reported to them a car had been abandoned a short distance from the fire scene.
What about a driver?
But she said as she drove by, she saw a white male that she didn't know get out of the car and run into the wood line.
Then come back?
Apparently not. The car's still sitting right where he parked it.
Let's go check it out.
All right, follow me.
First thing I observed was that it's parked in a very strange area, but there's no houses nearby, no cabins nearby. It was totally out of place.
You run the plates?
Yes, sir, I did.
And the license plate comes back that it's registered to a Matthew Sherwood, who lives in Colorado Springs.
Matter of fact, it did come back as being reported stolen.
Really?
Once we found out that this car had been reported stolen to the Colorado Springs Police Department, we reached out for assistance.
Yeah, Larry.
I've got an abandoned vehicle out here. It's registered to Matthew Sherwood in Colorado Springs. I was hoping you'd send one of you guys out there to investigate.
Matthew Sherwood.
Now this becomes a significant find. You have discovered a vehicle several hundred yards from an arson fire and a dead policeman. It's extremely likely that the person operating this vehicle is responsible for the fire and the murder as well.
Absolutely, we'll get right on it.
All right, perfect, thank you.
This guy needs to be found immediately. We have had the murder of an officer in Teller County. Now, investigators have discovered a stolen car in close proximity to the crime scene.
Kenda to Stevens.
Go for Stevens.
I need to locate a Matthew Sherwood.
He recently reported his car stolen, and we have reason to believe that car was involved with the shooting of the deputy out in Teller County.
10-4, sir, I'm on it.
It only makes sense that our officers talk to the owner of the car. He's in Colorado Springs.
As Kenda and his team track down Matthew Sherwood, Martin's team begins searching the area where his car was discovered.
Hey, Wilson. Look at this. Better get Martin.
Investigators reported back to me that, yes, they had found something, something very important.
What you got?
Check it out here.
They find 3 different mason jars containing what seems to be gasoline with a cloth wick pushed through the lid of each container.
Molotov cocktails.
Basically, it's a homemade firebomb.
Well, at least we know what started the cabin fire.
We're now fairly certain that the stolen car we have found was driven by the person who started the fire. Is it also possible they were the person that shot Deputy Holloway? My gut tells me yes, and I also believe that he's still in the area, on foot, and can be found.
This guy's got to be out here somewhere.
When you have a killer on the loose that has killed a police officer, he is probably the most dangerous predator that there is. He will not hesitate to kill anybody that gets in his way. So you don't leave any rock unturned.
Back in Colorado Springs, Lieutenant Kenda's team makes contact with Matthew Sherwood, the owner of the abandoned car.
Just want to ask you a few questions about your stolen car.
Certainly.
So exactly how long has your car been missing?
About 2 weeks.
Matthew explains that while he filed a cursory report on his stolen car approximately 12 days earlier, he had omitted the bizarre sequence of events that preceded it.
He goes to bed one night around midnight, gets up at 7, and he goes to reach for his keys, and they're not there. He looks out the window and notices that his car isn't there either.
Adam?
He's somewhat dumbfounded by this.
Adam? Adam?
He's going to question his roommate and realizes that he's disappeared as well. The conclusion is obvious that the roommate picked up the keys and took this car.
I haven't seen my car or my roommate since.
Okay, what can you tell us about this guy?
Matthew explains that his roommate is Adam Cooper, a 28-year-old construction worker.
I don't know him that well. I met him at work a few months ago. You know, seemed like a cool guy.
Everything was fine until 2 weeks ago when he said in his words, Adam started going downhill.
Just feel like starting over. Like starting everything over.
What do you mean?
Think about heading out to California. Maybe you should come with me.
Can't. I've got a job. Come on now. Can't believe you guys found my car in Teller County. Figured you'd take it all the way to California.
Inside your car, did Adam make off with any of the other belongings?
Yeah, actually, I own a police scanner. It's missing. I think he swiped it.
This is back when anyone could buy one. People used to use them for entertainment to know what was going on.
So the question is obvious. Why does Cooper want a police scanner? Is his intent to track officers and their location or what it is they're doing?
Back at headquarters, Kenda follows up on their new suspect.
A records check on Adam Cooper reveals he's been in prison for 5 years for burglary, recently released. But all of his history are property crimes, not violent crimes, and not arson crimes.
Hey, Larry. Yeah, we pulled Cooper's file.
There's a very strong possibility that either Adam Cooper is the person responsible for this crime spree, or he certainly knows who might be. So now it becomes even more imperative that those involved in this case lay hands on Adam Cooper.
Lieutenant Kenda and Investigator Martin know just what to do.
Great, I'll meet you there.
Who's the best person out there that can help us find Adam Cooper? His mother. We want to talk to his mother.
Thankfully for us, Adam Cooper's mother, Carly, lives in Colorado Springs.
Have a seat. You'll have to forgive me, I haven't been feeling well lately.
Adam's mother is 52. She's been diagnosed with cancer, had chronic health problems, including some mobility issues.
We're here to talk to you about your son, Adam.
Do you know where we can find him?
No, I haven't seen Adam in a couple of weeks. What's this about?
Well, we have reason to believe that Adam has been involved in the shooting of a police officer.
Oh, Adam.
She is almost emotionally overcome by the fact that her son could be involved in such a crime.
Guess I shouldn't be surprised, really.
What do you mean?
I haven't actually seen him, but I got a letter.
Yes?
It's just so upsetting.
Oh, really? Well, we need to know exactly what's in that letter. We're investigating the murder of a Teller County Sheriff's deputy. We've determined Adam Cooper is the probable thief of the car recovered at the scene. We're in contact with his mother, and she reports receiving a letter from him that has some very disturbing content.
Charlie indicated he was pretty upset, pretty depressed, was saying some things in the letter that scared her.
He's usually a pretty happy kid. It's just that since his stepfather and I divorced, he's not been the same.
The mother explains this has left her in financial straits, and she's unable to deal with the expenses involving her illness. And this has distressed Adam Cooper to a maximum level.
In the letter, Charlie describes Adam as saying that he's so angry with his stepfather, who has kind of left her high and dry. She's supposed to be getting alimony. He doesn't always send it.
I knew he was furious with his stepfather for leaving me in a lurch like this, but I never realized he wants to kill him.
He said that?
In the letter.
Adam indicated his plan was to kill his stepfather, and his thought was that the mother then would get his life insurance, and that would help her with her medical bills and whatnot.
However, Adam's plan to exact revenge on his stepfather had one insurmountable obstacle.
But his stepfather works for a contractor on the island of Guam. Adam Cooper is a parolee. He cannot legally leave the country under his own identity.
It's just all very weird. He feels like his sole purpose in life is to help me financially, get to his stepfather, get me his life insurance. And if he can't do that, then he doesn't have a purpose in life.
You mean like suicide?
At this point, I'm thinking Adam Cooper is the one involved in the murder of Deputy Holloway.
Do you still have this letter?
I do. It's over here.
May we see it, please?
It's in that binder.
The content of this letter clearly demonstrates that Adam Cooper is coming unhinged.
But the letter still didn't explain to me why he would have killed Brett Holloway.
And as the sun sets over Pikes Peak, Investigator Martin decides to call off the search until morning.
You cannot search in the dark for an armed and dangerous individual unless you're suicidal.
First light, we get all of our people together and distribute photographs of Adam Cooper.
This here's the picture of him.
I put teams together. I didn't want individuals searching for Adam Cooper on their own.
I remember it like it was yesterday. Team 6 was my team.
Let's go get the son of a bitch.
As the teams carry out their search,
Base to Martin.
Martin receives word of an important development.
Go for Martin.
At that cabin, we weren't able to search. That homeowner's on her way. Could you meet her over there?
On the way.
On the first day of that search, they were unwilling to make forced entry into locked buildings. There was one particular cabin that they had not yet searched, and that owner finally has arrived at the scene.
I saw it on the news. What's going on? Is my house okay?
Yeah, I think so. We've just been looking around. We want to make sure that everything's okay. You mind we get inside?
No, that's fine.
Okay,
Let's go.
Thank you.
I'm thinking, search several other cabins, haven't come up with anything. Are we really going to come up with anything here?
They're about to clear this, and Martin notices a look on the owner's face.
What's up?
Somebody's been here.
We asked her how she knew that. She said, well, looks like somebody's been eating food, and there's some clothes on the floor that do not belong to us.
My husband and I haven't been here for almost a month. I think that...
All of a sudden, we heard a noise on the second floor.
Go, go!
Martin immediately radios and they have a possible suspect contained.
I want all the closest units over here right away.
The first search team that arrives is led by Detective Rocco of the Woodland Park Police Department.
I believe he's on the second floor. Remember, he's probably armed, okay? Okay.
These are trained officers, and they're going to handle this as an entry team. Weapons will be pointed.
You guys ready? Yeah, ready.
Fingers are near the trigger. Everyone is on alert.
You guys ready?
When I looked up the stairway, it was probably less than 3 feet wide, and I thought, wow, that's a dangerous situation right there for a police officer. Your only retreat is up or down. There's no place else to go.
They smell fresh cigarette smoke. Now they know somebody's there.
There's 2 doors at the top of the stairs. I opened the door on the left. There's nothing in there. There's no furniture in there. It's just an empty room.
With the first bedroom cleared, Officer Rocco tries the second door.
All I had to do was reach up and grab the doorknob. It was locked. I heard a sound. The sound was metal to metal, a click, click, which is distinctive to a police officer. Every police officer knows this sound.
There's no question that's the operating slide of a semi-automatic pistol being cycled. Someone is placing a live round in the chamber and cocking the hammer.
When I hear that sound, I know that this guy means business.
The officers are prepared to engage in a gun battle to the death. He's already killed one police officer. He's not afraid to do it again. Those officers now know that they are in a life and death circumstance, and they're prepared to cut this suspect down.
Police department, open up. Show me your hands.
I told him he was surrounded and he wasn't going to leave that room unless he surrendered.
I'm standing on the front porch. I hear this going on. And then I hear a gunshot. Immediately react. Oh my God, are my guys being shot at or my guys doing the shooting?
He observes a Caucasian male in his late 20s sitting in a bed upright, blood pouring out of his head from an apparent gunshot wound to the mouth.
Let's call him an ambulance.
Sir, 47.
It's him. It's Adam Cooper. He shot himself.
Mr. Cooper had been threatening suicide to his mother, and he apparently decided this was the moment to carry it out. Better him than one of us.
He wasn't responsive at all. Medical arrived on scene probably 5 minutes later, but he died.
Martin sees the weapon on the bed is a Smith & Wesson 69.06 9mm, obviously Deputy Holloway's gun. There's a 12-gauge shotgun behind the door of the bedroom, and there's a police scanner on a table next to the bed.
Look at this.
But it's what police find next to the scanner that sends chills down their spine.
It's a check from a local bank made out to law enforcement in the amount of one dead officer, and it's signed by Adam Cooper.
I was repulsed when I saw that. You're actually writing out a check for the death of a police officer? It's despicable.
You look at someone like Cooper, and every police officer in that room is probably thinking, is there any possible way we could kill him again?
Let's get him out of here.
I felt Well, is this the way this investigation is going to end? I know that Adam Cooper is the person who took Brett Holloway's life. What I don't know is why.
Then, in an unexpected twist, Larry Martin unlocks the answer to that very question.
Crime scene investigators come in, and he had found a journal that apparently he had been writing over the last several days.
The contents of it are absolutely startling.
According to Adam Cooper's journal, he broke into the cabin 4 days ago.
He's contemplating suicide. At one point, he has the shotgun, which was stolen in a burglary sometime before that. But can't get up the nerve to pull the trigger. When he's unable to pull this trigger, he talks about this monster of hate rising up inside of him. He's decided to redirect this monster of hate toward the judicial system. He blames the system for not forcing his stepfather to pay his mother the required alimony amounts.
His solution to this whole thing was kill cops, kill as many as I can kill. And that's what his plan was.
He decides to make Molotov cocktail bombs and start an arson fire in a building. And when the police arrive, he's going to pick them off one by one.
I believe he was using a police scanner to hear when the police officers were coming.
10-4. I don't believe a code A has been done. The complainant originally called in advising.
But when he set that fire, not only did the police officers show up, but lots and lots of volunteer firemen showed up. So there was too many people for him to do what he actually wanted to do.
But according to a journal entry written later that night, Adam overheard something on the scanner that changed everything.
He's listening to the officers and hears one particular officer who they refer to on the radio as K-19. That is Brent Holloway's call sign. As the units begin to clear, K-19 is instructed to remain behind and guard the scene until daylight. Cooper now believes he has his opportunity.
Brent was sitting there. He could sneak up from behind unseen in the dark. Brent would never have seen him coming up behind him.
Cooper sticks the shotgun in the window and shoots the officer in the face. After he killed the officer, Cooper explains in the diary he is overwhelmed by guilt. He wonders about the officer's family, if he has children, and he rants on and on about the evil of what he's done. As the diary draws to a close, he realizes he's been discovered in this cabin. He hears officers quietly coming up the stairs. He knows the end has come. He decides he's going to kill himself before the officers kill him.
Police department, open up, show me your hands.
I was angry, very angry when I heard that he'd killed himself. And I could never forgive him for that. He should have stood trial.
Brent was the first line of duty death for the Teller County Sheriff's Department.
Hundreds of law officers, family, and friends turned out in Teller County to pay tribute to a deputy sheriff killed in the line of duty.
By the hundreds, they came to the mountaintop to pay their last respects.
It's a small sheriff's department. It's a small police department. So we knew each other. We worked with each other daily. And it's just something you're never prepared for in any way, shape, or form.
Brent Holloway was just 27 years old. Friends describe him as a devoted husband, friend, and law enforcement officer.
We want to praise him, to remember him always. We need to tell you all about the beloved husband, son, brother, and friend that Brent was.
This is a tragic case. You have Deputy Brent Holloway, who dedicated his life to taking care of his community and taking care of his family, and is wiped out by one deranged person.
We were high school sweethearts. I still think, even though I'm happily married now, I still think that we would have been happily married. There's always that question of what if? Would we still be in the same house, and all the different adventures and things that we had missed out on? Where would we have gone next?
The story begins on a quiet summer night in 2003. A night that should have ended like any other in the small coastal town of Elk Haven, California. But by dawn the air was thick with sirens. And what the first responders found inside that white clapboard house on Willow Street would scar the town for decades. The body of 27-year-old Lauren Kinsey, a local art teacher, was discovered sprawled across the kitchen floor. Her hands still stained with paint, her easel knocked over, her canvas half finished, a portrait of the ocean at sunset. There was no forced entry, no sign of theft, no scream heard by the neighbors, only the faint sound of the ticking wall clock, and the smell of turpentine mingling with blood. Detective Raymond Hale arrived just after 6 a.m., veteran of the Elk Haven Police Department. Calm eyes, coffee in hand. He'd seen plenty of tragedies, but this one felt different. Intimate, deliberate, silent. There was something almost staged about the scene. The killer had left her lying there, as if she were part of her own painting. The crime scene team combed the house inch by inch. No signs of forced entry meant someone Lauren knew had likely been there. Her phone was gone. So was her sketchbook. The back door was locked from the inside. A single mug sat on the kitchen table, half full of red wine. The autopsy would later reveal two things. Lauren had been strangled, not stabbed, not shot. And on her right wrist was a faint circular bruise, the mark of a ring pressed hard into her skin. A ring her friends would later say she never wore. Within 48 hours, Elk Haven was no longer the quiet beach town it had always been. Reporters flooded in from Los Angeles. Headlines screamed, "Art teacher slain in her home, police baffled." The community lit candles outside the school where Lauren had taught children to draw waves and gulls and dream. Her mother flew in from Oregon, too shocked to speak. And Detective Hale began what would become the most haunting case of his career. Lauren's friends painted a picture of her life. And it wasn't as simple as it looked. A breakup 6 months earlier. A stalker who sent her anonymous notes. A neighbor who claimed to have seen a dark sedan parked outside her home that week. Every lead branched into dead ends. No fingerprints. No footprints. Only a faint smear on the doorknob that the lab dismissed, too partial to process. The small-town department didn't have the tools of a big-city forensics unit. Hale requested help from the state lab, but weeks turned into months. By Christmas 2003, the case had gone cold. He never stopped thinking about it. Lauren's unfinished painting, that glowing horizon, hung in the evidence room wrapped in brown paper. Her mother refused to sell the house. Neighbors moved away, whispering that her ghost still lingered by the window. Years passed. Technology evolved. But the file stayed buried. One more tragedy in the archives of a town that wanted to forget. Then, 15 years later, something changed. It began with a new face at the department, Detective Naomi Rios, 33, sharp-eyed, recently transferred from Los Angeles County's cold case unit. She was reviewing old files one by one, digitalizing evidence for the state's new crime database. When she reached Kinsey Lauren 2003, she paused. The old photographs felt heavy. And something about that partial print notation on the doorknob caught her eye. She ordered the physical evidence pulled from storage, boxes layered with dust, labels faded. When the evidence clerk rolled them out, she found the original metal doorknob sealed in a plastic case. The chain of custody had never been broken. It was there waiting untouched since 2004. Naomi submitted it for reanalysis using the department's newly acquired AFIS enhancement software, capable of reconstructing partial prints once thought useless. She didn't expect much. Most cold cases don't yield miracles. But when the results came back 3 days later, her computer beeped once and froze. Match found. Confidence level 97%. The name that appeared on her screen made her blood run cold. Thomas Hale. The son of Detective Raymond Hale, the man who had led the original investigation. First she thought it had to be a mistake, a contamination, a lab error, anything. But the timestamp data, the evidence logs, the digital fingerprints, they all matched. The sample was genuine. The fingerprint belonged to him, recorded in a minor traffic incident in 2010. She didn't tell anyone right away. She needed to be sure. She drove to the old Hale residence on the outskirts of town. Raymond Hale had retired in 2016, living alone after his wife passed away. When Naomi arrived, she found the retired detective sitting on his porch, sipping black coffee, watching the tide roll in. "Detective Rios," he greeted, with that same calm voice the younger officer still respected. "Cold cases don't usually bring visitors." Naomi hesitated. "I've been reviewing the Kinsey file." A long silence. The sound of the ocean filled the space between them. Hale leaned back, eyes narrowing. "That one's haunted everyone who ever touched it." "I found something," she said. "A fingerprint. On the doorknob. It matches someone connected to you." He didn't speak. Didn't blink. Just stared out toward the horizon, that same horizon Lauren had painted the night she died. Finally he said quietly, "My son." Naomi nodded. Another long silence. Then Hale whispered. He was 16. The truth began to unravel. Thomas Hale had been a troubled teenager. Expelled twice, known for drinking, reckless behavior, and one violent fight that sent another student to the hospital. Raymond had covered for him more than once, believing discipline and structure could fix a boy who had lost his mother too early. In 2003, Thomas had been grounded, forbidden to drive, but had borrowed his father's unmarked car that summer night. Raymond had reported it as routine patrol use the next morning. At the time it meant nothing, but now every detail screamed guilt. Naomi reopened the case formally. Every file, every photo, every overlooked detail was now evidence against the son of the man who once led the charge for justice. The media caught wind within days. California 2003 cold case reopened. Detective's son named person of interest. Raymond stopped answering calls. Thomas couldn't be found. Old wounds ripped open across Elk Haven. Lauren's mother, now gray-haired and frail, broke down when reporters arrived at her door. "All these years," she said, trembling. "And it was one of their own?" Naomi didn't sleep for nights. She couldn't shake the image of the retired detective's empty eyes. She'd seen guilt before, denial, rage, but never this. This was grief folded over itself, too deep to name. Forensics confirmed the match a week later. But there was still one unanswered question. Why? Why would a 16-year-old boy kill a woman like Lauren Kinsey? The deeper Naomi dug, the darker it grew. Hidden in the evidence archive was a sealed envelope labeled personal effects, not logged. Inside, a sketch torn from Lauren's notebook. A portrait of a teenage boy with sharp eyes and a smirk. Signed at the bottom, T. The initials that would unravel everything. The envelope sat on Naomi's desk for hours before she dared touch it again. That torn sketch, the smirk, the initials, it was like Lauren Kinsey herself was whispering from the past. Thomas Hale. A boy she must have known. But how? The more Naomi stared at the portrait, the clearer it became. This wasn't drawn from imagination. It was drawn from memory. The angle of the jaw, the unruly hair, it was him. The same face from old yearbook photos. But Lauren was 27. Thomas was 16. What was a grown woman doing sketching a teenage boy with eyes that looked back at her like a secret? The first time Naomi brought the sketch to her captain, he told her to tread carefully. "You're walking into a graveyard," he warned. "This isn't just a case, it's a wound in the department." But she couldn't stop. The silence around Lauren's death wasn't natural. It was constructed, built on hesitation, loyalty, and something darker. She went back through the 2003 interview notes. And there it was, a missing name. One witness, a neighbor named Clara Jennings, age 72, claimed she'd seen a tall boy leaving Lauren's house around 9 p.m. that night. Her statement had been marked unreliable due to poor eyesight. But the signature on the report belonged to Detective Raymond Hale. Naomi printed the document, the ink still warm under her fingers, and stared at it in disbelief. If that sighting had been taken seriously 20 years ago, the whole case could have broken open. Instead, it had been buried. She decided to visit Clara Jennings. The old woman still lived on Willow Street, 3 houses down from Lauren's. Her yard was overgrown, a rusted wind chime spinning slowly in the December wind. When Naomi knocked, it took a long moment before she heard the slow shuffle of feet behind the door. Then an old voice called out, wary, "Who's there?" "Detective Hughes. Elk Haven PD. I'd like to ask you about something from 2003. The door creaked open just enough for one pale eye to peer out. "I knew they'd come back one day," Clara said softly. "The girl in the yellow house, right? The painter." Naomi nodded. "You said you saw someone leave her house that night." Clara's lips trembled. "Yes. I told them. A boy. Not a man. 16, maybe 17. I remember because he ran. Not walked, ran. Down the street like something was chasing him." "Could you see his face?" "No. Just his shape." But she hesitated, searching for the memory. "He had a jacket with a reflective stripe across the back. Looked like a police jacket." Naomi felt her chest tighten. Thomas Hale had worn one of his father's old department jackets in high school. She'd seen the photograph in Raymond's living room during her first visit. That same photo now burned in her mind like evidence hidden in plain sight. She thanked Clara, took notes, and drove back to the precinct. The night outside was sharp and cold, the ocean wind cutting through the alleys. She couldn't stop thinking about Raymond, about what he must have known, what he must have done to protect his son. Back at headquarters, Naomi logged into the internal database and pulled Thomas Hale's sealed juvenile records, only accessible by court order. She had neither the clearance nor the patience to wait for one. She used her cold case access, typed in the override code, and waited. The file loaded. 3 incidents. Vandalism at Elk Haven High. Possession of alcohol. An assault report, filed by a female teacher, withdrawn 2 weeks later. Her eyes froze on the last line, victim. Kinsey Lauren. The report had been erased from official records, but it lived here, buried under layers of administrative dust. It described an incident after art class. Thomas staying late, an argument, Lauren asking him to leave. Witness heard shouting. No charges filed. That was 2 months before her murder. The pieces started to align: the sketch, the print, the ring bruise, the boy with the police jacket. But one thing still didn't fit. If Raymond knew, why leave the body staged like that? Why not clean the scene completely? Unless he didn't find out until after. Naomi drove to Raymond's house again, headlights cutting through the fog. The porch light was off. The house was dark. She knocked once. No answer. Knocked again. Finally, the door opened. Raymond stood there, his face pale, eyes heavy with the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from sleep. He didn't ask why she was there. He just said quietly, "You found it all, didn't you?" Naomi stepped inside. The air smelled of old wood and coffee. The living room walls were lined with commendations, photos, the shadow of a man who once believed in truth. Raymond sat down slowly, hands trembling slightly. "She was a good woman," he began. "Lauren. She helped the kids after school. Gave them somewhere to go." Naomi didn't interrupt. "My son, he was lost. Angry. After his mother died, he turned cold. But she saw something in him. Tried to help him. Art therapy, she called it." His voice cracked. "They got close. Too close. I told her to stop. She said it wasn't like that. Said he just needed someone to listen." He took a deep breath, shaking. Then that night she called me. Said Thomas had come over, wouldn't leave. Said she was scared. His eyes filled with tears. I was on patrol 20 miles away. Naomi felt her stomach drop. What happened when you got there? He looked at her, haunted. He was standing in the kitchen. Just standing there. Hands covered in paint and blood. I told him to run to his room and not come out. He wiped his face with shaking hands. I knew what it meant. I knew what I had to do. Naomi's voice was almost a whisper. You covered it up. He didn't deny it. I cleaned what I could. Locked the door. Took her phone, her sketchbook. Said it was a break-in. I thought maybe I could save what was left of him. A silence thicker than the ocean filled the room. Naomi's recorder sat in her pocket, blinking red. Every word he spoke was being saved, but she felt like she was betraying a man who had already betrayed himself long ago. Then Raymond looked up, his face breaking apart. He left that night. I never saw him again. Said he couldn't live with it. I thought he was dead. Naomi stared at him. Thomas is alive. The words seemed to knock the air out of him. She explained, the fingerprint hit from 2010, the minor traffic stop in Nevada under a fake name. Thomas Hale had been alive all this time, hiding in plain sight. Raymond covered his mouth, a broken sound escaping his throat. My God, all these years. Naomi stood, the weight of the revelation crushing her. I have to bring him in. Raymond didn't stop her. He only said, be careful. You won't find the same boy I lost. 2 days later, Naomi tracked the lead. A mechanic shop in Reno, registered under the name Tom Harlan. A fingerprint from a work permit matched the same one found on Lauren's door. She coordinated with Nevada PD for an arrest. It was supposed to be routine, quiet, controlled. But when they arrived, the shop was empty. Tools left midair and engine still running. A note taped to the counter. I didn't mean to. Tell my father I remember the painting. Naomi stared at the handwriting, bold, uneven, shaking. The note was short, but the words echoed through her like a siren in fog. I remember the painting. She thought of Lauren's last canvas, the sunset frozen on her easel. The orange bleeding into crimson. The waves swallowing light. A painting unfinished just like everything else. The manhunt stretched into weeks. Highways, motels, bus stations. Thomas Hale was gone again. A ghost shaped by guilt. The media feasted on every headline. Cold case detective's son on the run. Fingerprint from the past exposes family secret. Naomi barely slept. Each night she dreamed of Lauren's house, the ticking clock, the scent of turpentine, the faint trace of a fingerprint that had waited 20 years to speak. Then one morning a call came from the coast. A fisherman near Big Sur had found an abandoned truck at the edge of a cliff. Inside, a wallet, a driver's license for Tom Harlan. No body, no footprints. Just tire marks ending where the world dropped into the Pacific. The report said presumed suicide. But Naomi didn't believe it. Not entirely. She drove to the cliff herself, stood at the edge where the salt wind howled, and stared into the gray sea. Below, waves crashed against the rocks like the echo of a heartbeat that refused to stop. And in that roar, she thought she heard a whisper, faint but certain. It wasn't over. The cliff at Big Sur became the perfect ending for the narrative everyone wanted. A truck abandoned. A wallet left behind. A boy who never stopped running. By evening, the headlines were ready. Fugitive son of cold case detective presumed dead after cliffside plunge. The public sighed with a dark kind of relief. The story fit. The guilty boy, haunted by his crime, finally swallowed by the sea. The town could sleep again. On paper, the cold case was over. But Naomi Rios didn't believe in perfect endings. Not in real life. Not in Elk Haven. She stood at the guardrail long after the search crews packed up and drove away, the wind whipping her hair across her face. Below her, the Pacific boiled against the rocks, erasing every trace of the tire marks above. If Thomas had jumped, the ocean had already taken him. If he hadn't, the ocean had just become his alibi. She closed her eyes and replayed the details one by one. The abandoned mechanic's shop. The engine left running. The note on the counter. Tell my father I remember the painting. The truck at the cliff. The wallet, the ID. Too neat. Too arranged. People who want to disappear don't leave their names behind so politely. People who want to die don't always stage a scene. But people who want to close a case, they stage everything. Back at the station, the mood shifted fast. The captain called a meeting. The conference room was packed with uniforms, suits, and the heavy presence of internal affairs. On the screen at the front, photographs flickered past. Lauren's body, the doorknob, the partial print, the Reno shop, the cliff. The captain spoke in a tight, measured voice. As of today, the department is treating the Kinsey investigation as cleared pending final forensic confirmation. The primary suspect is believed deceased. The words tasted like rust in Naomi's mouth. Cleared. Believed deceased. Boxes checked, story closed. Then came the second part. Separate from the murder investigation, we are opening a full inquiry into the actions of retired Detective Raymond Hale. The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Eyes avoided each other. Obstruction. Evidence tampering. Failure to disclose conflict of interest. 20 years too late. Naomi sat in the back, hands clenched under the table. She watched as they pulled up audio of his confession. He didn't ask for a lawyer. Didn't negotiate. Didn't fight. He admitted to cleaning the scene. Admitted to redirecting suspicion. Admitted to burying a neighbor's testimony. All for his son. The IA investigator paused the recording and said, almost bored, "This is going to make a great training video." Naomi wanted to put her fist through the screen. This wasn't a teaching moment. It was a fracture running straight through the department's spine. After the meeting, the captain pulled her aside. "You did good work," he said. "You brought closure to a family." She looked him dead in the eye. "We brought them a story. That's not the same as the truth." His jaw tightened. "The truth is we have a confession, a fingerprint, a suspect on the run, and a presumed fatality. The DA will be satisfied. The media's satisfied. The town's satisfied. Sometimes that's as close as we get." She didn't say it out loud, but she thought it anyway. Sometimes that's as close as you're willing to get. That night she couldn't go home. She drove instead to Willow Street. Lauren's house sat exactly as it had in the photographs. Freshly painted, porch light replaced, new tenants already moved in. But the street still carried the echo of the crime. She parked 3 houses down and sat in silence. In her mind, the past and present blurred. She saw Lauren unlocking her front door. Saw the boy in the police jacket at the top of the street. Saw the porch light switch on then off. Heard the distant tick of the kitchen clock. The case file said the time of death was estimated between 9:30 and 10:15 p.m. Thomas ran from the house at 9 o'clock, according to Clara. So what happened in those missing minutes? Naomi pulled the thin folder from the passenger seat. There was a piece everyone seemed eager to forget, a detail that had hung at the edge of her thoughts since she first read the autopsy. The bruise on Lauren's wrist. A circular imprint, faint but distinct, like a ring pressed hard into skin. Not a bracelet. Not a handprint. A ring. Thomas Hale's juvenile photos showed no ring. No jewelry, no watch. Kids like him didn't wear polished symbols of commitment or status. But older men did. Back at the office, in the wall of framed photos of old task forces and squads, Naomi remembered one image clearly. Detective Raymond Hale in his prime, standing next to his partner Sergeant Cole Maddox, both in suits, both unsmiling, both staring straight into the camera. Raymond's hands were bare. But Maddox's right hand rested on his belt. A heavy square signet ring gleamed on his finger. She'd noticed it before. Never cared. Now it wouldn't leave her mind. She went back to the evidence room. Requested the autopsy photos. The old negatives. The wrist close-ups. The coroner's report described the bruise as consistent with focus pressure. Approximately 1.6 to 1.8 centimeters in diameter, with partial indentation on the radial side. Clinical. Detached. Naomi pulled up the squad photo on her computer and zoomed in until the pixels blurred. The signet ring on Maddox's hand was thick, the face almost perfectly round. Too blurry to measure. But her gut was louder than the resolution. She checked the old rosters. On the night of the murder, who was on call? Hale. Maddox. 2 patrol officers. The report said Maddox had responded to a domestic call across town at 9:40 p.m. that night. Log entry. Arrived on scene 9:48 p.m., which meant he was driving, which meant he was alone, which meant, in theory, he could have been anywhere between. She pulled the old 911 recordings from that domestic call. The timestamp on the call was 9:36 p.m. A woman screaming, arguing, a crash. Maddox had marked resolved. No arrest. Naomi sat back. In small towns, records were often written to fit the narrative, not the clock. If Maddox had needed an alibi, it would have been easy to manufacture. But there was still no proof. Only Ghost's gut, and a ring-shaped bruise on a dead woman's wrist. She needed something harder. Something that could survive cross-examination. Something that could pierce 20 years of dust. She went back to the beginning. To the door. The doorknob had given them Thomas. A partial print enhanced by new software, matched through AFIS. But what if that wasn't the only thing it held? In 2003, the lab's tools were primitive compared to what they had now. They'd looked for patterns in ridges, run powders and fumes. But they hadn't had vacuum metal deposition, multispectral imaging, ridge overlay reconstruction, the kind of methods that could pull layers of fingerprints apart like threads in a tapestry. She walked into the forensics lab the next morning, the plastic case containing the original doorknob under her arm. The chief tech, Elliot Park, looked up from his microscope, eyebrows raised. "You really don't like letting go, do you?" he said. "No, Naomi replied. "I don't. And neither does she." She set the case on the counter. "I want everything. Top to bottom. Not just a recheck. I want multispectral vacuum deposition 3D ridge mapping. If there's even a ghost of a print we missed, I want you to drag it out." Elliot sighed, but there was a spark in his eyes. "Cold case archaeology. My favorite kind of work." He logged the new request, scanning the barcode, adding notes. "Just so we're clear," he said, "we already got a match on this knob. Your guy. Hale's kid." "I know," she said. "But what if he wasn't the only one who touched it that night?" Elliot's hands paused. "Overlapping prints are a nightmare," he warned. "Smears, distortions, ridge interference. The software hates it." "Good thing we don't work for the software," Naomi shot back. "We work for the dead." He gave her a long look, then nodded. "Auhikt, hius. I'll see what your ghost door has left for us." As she left the lab, her phone buzzed. It was a number she didn't recognize. She answered. A woman's voice, thin, cracked with age. "Detectivi Hughes." "Yes. Who is this?" "This is Evelyn Kinsey. Lauren's mother." Naomi's throat tightened. "Miss Kinsey, I was going to come by and see you this week." "I can't sleep," Evelyn said. "I've been watching the news. They say it's over now. That the boy killed her. That he's gone." Naomi leaned against the hallway wall, closing her eyes. "That's the current assessment, yes. But you don't sound sure." Silence stretched between them. Then Naomi said softly, "I'm not." Evelyn inhaled, shaky but controlled. "Good. 'Cause she told me something once. A few weeks before her voice faltered. She said someone grabbed her wrist. Hard. Left a bruise. She laughed it off. Said it was an overprotective friend. But she described the ring. Naomi's heart began to hammer. What did she say? She said it was heavy. Cold. With a crest on it. Police or army or something like that. She said when he grabbed her, it hurt more because of the metal. I told her to tell someone. She said, "Mom, he is someone." Naomi slid down the wall slowly until she was almost sitting on the floor. A crest. A police ring. Not a teenager's accessory. "Do you remember a name?" she asked. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then, as if pulling the word out from under layers of grief, she whispered, "Maddox." She called him Cole. Said he was always hanging around after her evening classes. Said he brought coffee, talked about keeping her safe. I didn't like the way she said it. The hallway felt suddenly smaller, the walls closer. Naomi stared straight ahead, seeing nothing. "Miss Kinsey," she said, her voice steadying with effort. "I need you to write that down. Everything you just told me. Date it. Sign it. I'll come by and pick it up." "I thought it was my fault," Evelyn whispered. For not forcing her to report him. For not coming down there and dragging him off myself. It wasn't your fault, Naomi said. You didn't kill your daughter. Evelyn's next words came out like broken glass. Then who did? Naomi didn't answer. Because right now she had no proof. Just a ring. A name. And a door that might still be holding its secrets. She hung up and went straight back to her desk, pulling up old internal memos. Maddox had retired in 2010. Moved inland somewhere near Fresno. 2 complaints had been filed against him before he left, both from women. One dismissed for insufficient evidence. The other marked resolved no further action. She printed them out, her jaw clenching. Patterns. Always patterns. Predators don't suddenly appear. They leave hairline cracks long before they break anything wide open. As she sifted through old emails, she found something she almost missed. A short internal message from 2004, flagged private. From Maddox. To de Arhola. Subject. Kinsey follow-up. We need to stop digging. For both our sakes. Naomi froze. She had never seen this before. It wasn't in the case file. It wasn't in the audit trail. It was buried in a forgotten backup folder, found only because she had searched Maddox's name department-wide. She printed it and held the paper like it might burn her hand. Stop digging. The words echoed down the years like a warning, like an order, like a threat. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Elliot from the lab. You're going to want to come down here, he said, his voice lower than usual. What did you find? A pause. Then, your doorknob had more to say. There's another print. Underneath the boys. Fainter. Older. But it's there. And it doesn't belong to Thomas. Naomi's pulse roared in her ears. Can you match it? We're running it now, Elliot said. But I'll tell you this much. Whoever it is, they were on that door before your teenager was. She turned, already walking the lab doors at the end of the hallway like the entrance to a different era. The cold case wasn't closing. It was cracking open. And this time it wouldn't be a runaway boy exposed by a fingerprint. It would be the hidden hand behind him. The one who left a ring-shaped bruise. The one who told a detective to stop digging. The one the door had remembered all along. The hum of the lab equipment filled the room like an electrical heartbeat. Blue light pulsed against glass. Machines breathed. Naomi stood behind the glass partition, watching Elliot Park and his team hover over the sealed doorknob, as if it were a relic from another century. Every detail of that metal sphere mattered now. Every ridge, every smear, every microscopic groove might be the last whisper from the night Lauren Kinsey died. Elliot's voice came through the intercom. We've isolated the latent layer. 2 distinct sources. The first, your confirmed Thomas Hale match. But below that we found another set. Fainter. Almost fused into the metal. Partial but reconstructible. Naomi's pulse quickened. And the result? Elliot's gloved hands tapped the console. Lines appeared on the screen. Whorls. Ridges. Arches. Then a match indicator blinked. Slow and deliberate. Match found. Confidence. 94.3%. Elliot's voice was steady, but his face had gone pale. It's registered to Cole Maddox. Retired Sergeant. Badge number 5427. Naomi exhaled sharply. The lab was silent except for the low hum of the machine still chewing through data. The name she'd been dreading had finally surfaced, not as a ghost or a suspicion, but as a number in a database, cold and unblinking. The machine didn't lie. Maddox's fingerprint was on Lauren's door. Elliot turned toward her. You were right. He touched it before the kid. Naomi's voice dropped. Which means Thomas didn't go there alone. She stared at the print image glowing on the screen. The faint ghost of a man who had slipped through every gap in procedure, every blind spot in loyalty. A predator wrapped in a badge. It wasn't just negligence. It was conspiracy. Naomi drove straight to headquarters, the city lights of Elkhaven blurring past her windshield. Inside the precinct, the air was thick. Detectives whispering, phones ringing, reporters still loitering outside like vultures smelling a new lead. She stormed into the captain's office. He looked up from a stack of reports, startled. What is it now? Naomi dropped the lab file on his desk. The photos of the fingerprint reconstruction slid out like evidence spilled from time itself. Maddox's print, she said flatly. On the victim's door. Same night. Same surface. Directly under Thomas Hale's. The captain's eyes darted between the pages. That's impossible. Maddox was across town. He said he was across town, Naomi shot back. But his log entry doesn't match the dispatch call. The timing's off by at least 8 minutes. He rubbed his temple, voice tightening. You're telling me our retired sergeant was there before the victim was killed? I'm telling you, Naomi said, leaning forward. He was inside that house. For a long moment, the captain said nothing. Then quietly, you realize what this means. If you're wrong, we tear apart 2 decades of police integrity for nothing. If you're right. If I'm right, Naomi interrupted. We've been protecting a murderer for 20 years. The captain looked away. There were things even he didn't want to say out loud. Finally, he exhaled. Get your paperwork clean. Get your evidence chain flawless. If we're reopening this under Maddox's name, it'll be war. Naomi nodded. Then I'll bring my armor. She left the office with the file under her arm, the weight of it heavier than it should have been. Downstairs, she sat in her car and called Evelyn Kinsey. The old woman answered immediately. Detective. I have something to tell you, Naomi said. It's not the boy. It never was. We have proof someone else was there that night. Evelyn's voice trembled. You found him? Not yet. But we know who he is. Who? Naomi hesitated. Knowing the name would reopen every wound. Cole Maddox. There was silence. Then a small broken sound. I told her to stay away from him, Evelyn whispered. She said he was kind. Said he was helping her after the break-in at the school. But he wasn't helping, was he? Naomi closed her eyes. No. He wasn't. The next morning she drove inland, Fresno County. Retirement tract homes, heat shimmering over asphalt, lawns trimmed too neatly. Maddox had moved here after his pension kicked in. No record of employment, no volunteer work. Just a single address listed on a property tax statement and a monthly check from the state. When she pulled up to the house, the sun was already brutal. The blinds were drawn. The air was still. She knocked twice. Nothing. Knocked again, louder. Then a voice from inside. Go away. Sergeant Maddox, she called. This is Detective Rios from Elk Haven PD. We need to speak regarding the Kinsey investigation. Footsteps. The door opened just enough for her to see him. Older, heavier, skin weathered like old paper. But the eyes were the same as the photo in the archive. Cold. Unflinching. I already told your people everything 20 years ago, he said. You've got your culprit. The kid's dead. Let it rot. Naomi held his gaze. We found your fingerprint on the victim's door. For a heartbeat, his face didn't move. Then just barely the corner of his mouth twitched. You're reaching, he said quietly. That house was processed 100 times. Contamination happens. Not under another person's print. Not layered and sealed in oxidized metal. You were there before he was. Maddox exhaled slowly, the kind of exhale that belonged to a man deciding what mask to wear next. Then he smiled. You're good, he said. You've got that righteous fire. I had it once too. Before I learned what justice really costs. Naomi didn't flinch. Justice isn't for sale, Sergeant. Everything's for sale, he murmured. Then he stepped back, starting to close the door. Naomi's hand shot out, stopping it. One more thing, she said. Lauren told her mother you grabbed her. Left a bruise. A ring bruise. That froze him. Just for a second. Then his voice went flat. You don't know what you're talking about. Your ring left a mark, she said. And your fingerprint left a trail. He laughed then, a short, sharp sound like a door slamming. Get off my porch, detective. Before you make an enemy you can't afford. She met his eyes one last time. I think I already did. By the time Naomi got back to her car, her hands were shaking. She sat there for a minute trying to breathe. Maddox had looked at her with the calmness of a man who didn't believe in consequences anymore. The kind of calm that only comes from surviving too many lies. She called her captain again. He knows, she said. He's hiding something. Do you have probable cause? I have a fingerprint, a bruise pattern, and a 20-year-old motive. Then you don't have enough, he said grimly. Get a warrant for his house. Do it clean. It took 48 hours. When the search team finally entered Maddox's property, he wasn't home. The garage door was open, the house silent. Naomi led the sweep herself. Every room smelled of dust and oil. The walls were bare except for one, a corkboard covered in old newspaper clippings. Headlines: Art teacher murder stuns Elk Haven. Detective's son cleared in cold case. Fingerprint mystery solved after 2 decades. Pinned beside them were photos. Lauren's face. The crime scene. Raymond Hale. And in the center, circled in red ink, Naomi Rios. Underneath, a handwritten note. She's digging too deep. Her stomach twisted. He'd been watching. Tracking her. Every move, every article, every press statement. Then she saw it. A small wooden box on the shelf beside the board. Inside. A silver police signet ring. The face dented, the crest faded but unmistakable. Elliot's voice from the lab echoed in her mind. 1.6 to 1.8 centimeters in diameter. The match was perfect. Naomi held the ring up to the light, and the truth hit like a blade. This wasn't just an old predator hiding in retirement. This was a man who had waited for the story to die before collecting trophies from it. The search team bagged the ring, the clippings, the photos. But something in the air felt wrong. The silence wasn't just empty, it was expectant. She turned toward the hallway. The faint red blink of a camera light glowed above the doorway. He'd been recording them. Watching them even now. Get IT to trace the feed, she barked. Right now. But before they could move, the front door creaked open. Maddox stood there. No weapon in sight. Just calm eyes and a faint smile. Looking for souvenirs? He asked. Naomi stepped forward. You're under arrest for the murder of Lauren Kinsey. Maddox raised his hand slowly. Careful, detective. You don't want to make a scene. This is a scene, she snapped. And you're the villain. He looked at her, the smirk fading, voice suddenly cold. Villains only exist in stories. In real life, we're just survivors of different lies. The officers moved in. Cuffed him. He didn't resist. Didn't struggle. Only said one thing, almost to himself. She was supposed to keep quiet. Naomi froze. What did you say? He looked up, meeting her eyes, a shadow of a smile returning. You dig long enough, detective, you'll find out. But be careful what you dig with. Some shovels are two-sided. As they let him out, Naomi felt the weight of his words sink in. There was something he wasn't saying. Something still hidden, not in fingerprints or photos, but in the story that had begun 2 decades ago and refused to die. Because if Maddox had been there first, and Thomas Hale had arrived after, then what exactly had the boy seen in that kitchen that made him run into the night and never come back? The case wasn't over. It had only changed shape. The fingerprint had exposed the murderer. But the motive was still buried. And beneath that motive, something darker was waiting. Something even the ocean couldn't wash away. The interrogation room was small, windowless, and unforgiving. Just 4 walls, 1 metal table, 2 chairs, and a strip of light that made every lie look louder. Maddox sat there like he'd been born in rooms like this. Hands cuffed in front of him. Back straight. Eyes steady. He didn't fidget. Didn't sweat. He just watched the door as if he could already see who was coming through. Naomi stepped in, closed it behind her, and let the silence sit for a moment. No mirror speech. No rehearsed lines. Just the weight of 20 years hanging between them. She placed the case file on the table. Then the photos. Lauren's body. The door. The reconstructed fingerprint. The ring bruise. Maddox's gaze slid briefly over them, then back to her. He smiled faintly. You know, in another life, I'd be on your side of the table, asking the questions. In this life, Naomi said, pulling out the chair opposite him, you're the one who ran out of answers. She sat, folded her hands. No rush, no bluff. He respected strength, not theatrics. You were at Lauren Kinsey's house the night she died, she began. Your fingerprint proves it. Underneath the boys. Earlier than him. He shrugged. I checked on a lot of people. She'd had that break-in at the school. I told her to call me if she ever felt unsafe. Maybe I stopped by. Maybe I touched the door. That's what we did back then, detective. We knocked. You didn't just knock, Naomi said. You grabbed her. Hard. Left a bruise on her wrist. Your ring did that. He glanced at the bagged ring on the table. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Not guilt. Not fear. Annoyance. She was upset, he said. I tried to calm her down. She overreacted. Some people bruise easily. You know how it is. Everyone's a victim now. Naomi leaned forward. She told her mother you scared her. That you wouldn't leave her alone. That you hung around after class. That you brought coffee, stood too close, made promises she didn't ask for. He shrugged again, the movement small but calculated. Is that a crime? Being protective? It is, Naomi said. When the woman you're protecting ends up dead on her kitchen floor. He kept his eyes on her, searching for the weak point. You've already got your boogeyman, he said. Hale's kid. Troubled boy. Runs away. Leaves a note. Truck at the cliff. The town eats that story for breakfast. Why drag me into it now? Why ruin the clean ending? Because the ending is a lie, she replied. And you wrote it. He laughed once under his breath. You think I'm the author of all this? That's cute. Naomi flipped open the file, sliding another photo across the table. Thomas Hale at 16. Mugshot from a juvenile detention intake. Defiant eyes. Blood on his lip. You knew exactly what he was, she said. Hot-headed. Lost. Angry. The perfect lightning rod. All you had to do was stand close enough to the storm. Maddox glanced at the photo, then at her. Kids like him make choices. Nobody forces their hands. You're right, Naomi said. He made a choice. He went to Lauren's house that night because she called his father, and his father couldn't get there fast enough, so the boy went instead. And he walked into something he didn't understand. She watched his face as she spoke. There it was. A tiny tightening at the jaw. Not enough for a confession, but enough to know she was in the right room. You want to tell me what he saw? She asked quietly. Maddox looked down at his cuffed hands, turned his wrists slightly, like he was remembering the feel of freedom. I think, he said slowly, you want that more than you realize. Silence. Somewhere beyond the walls, a phone rang. A copier word. Life went on as if the past weren't being exhumed a few feet away. Naomi slid a printed email onto the table. His email to Raymond from 2004. We need to stop digging. For both our sakes. You and Hale made a deal, she said. You knew his kid was there that night. You knew what he thought he'd done. And you let him believe it. Maddox's eyes lifted, sharp again. Belief is a powerful thing, detective. People will cage themselves if you give them the right story. What did you tell him? She pressed. What did you tell Thomas? Maddox tilted his head. Why don't you ask his father? I did, Naomi said. He thinks his kid killed her. He's been punishing himself ever since. But he wasn't there when she stopped breathing. She let the words land. Then softly. You were. For a moment the mask slipped. Not fully. Just a flicker. But for someone like Maddox, that was a crack in the armor. He sat back, exhaled slowly and changed tactics. You know, he said. When you wear a badge long enough, you start to see patterns. Women like Lauren, they draw storms. Lonely kids. Men who want to save them. People who want something from the light they carry. She could have left. Could have taken a different job. Didn't. That's a choice too. Naomi's jaw tightened. Say her name again and call her women like her. And I'll personally make sure you never see daylight through anything but reinforced glass. He smiled. Loved the fight. Feisty, he said. You're fun. She didn't rise to it. Instead, she pulled out the last thing she had. A photograph. Not from the crime scene. From the evidence box that had been labeled personal effects. Not logged. Lauren's sketch. The portrait of a teenage boy with a sharp jaw and dangerous eyes. Naomi laid it on the table. She drew him, she said. She saw him. Not the monster you painted, Not the ghost that ran off a cliff. She saw a kid who needed help. Did that bother you? Maddox's eyes dropped to the sketch. There it was again, that flicker. More than annoyance now. Jealousy. Anger. Something old and rotting under the surface. She shouldn't have gotten involved, he muttered. That boy was a ticking bomb. I told her to stay away from him. You told her, Naomi repeated. What else did you tell her? That you'd protect her if she did what you wanted? That you'd handle the boy? That you were the only one she could trust? He didn't answer. Naomi leaned forward, voice dropping to a near whisper. So you went to her house that night. You tried to make it clear. Maybe you grabbed her. Maybe she told you no. Maybe she said she was going to report you. He was staring at the table now, not seeing it. Seeing something else. The kitchen. The paint. The clock. The hands on her throat. Maybe, Naomi continued, you pushed too far. Maybe she fought back. Maybe you realized in that moment that she wasn't going to be another woman who stayed quiet for your sake. His fingers tightened around each other, the cuffs clinking softly. And then, Naomi said, the boy walked in. His eyes snapped up. There it was. You really want to know what he saw? Maddox asked quietly. Fine. He saw chaos. He saw the woman he thought was going to save him on the floor. He saw blood. He saw my hands on her. And do you know what he did, detective? Naomi's heart hammered. Tell me. He froze, Maddox said. Like they all do. All that anger, all that rage, and when it mattered. He just stood there and shook. I told him to get out. I told him to run home. I told him he didn't want this picture in his head for the rest of his life. So you admit it, Naomi said, voice steady. You admit you were standing over her. He smiled sadly. You're putting words in my mouth again. I'm describing a hypothetical. That's what lawyers call it, don't they? You're not going to talk your way out of a fingerprint, Naomi said. Or a ring bruise. Or a mother's statement. Or 20 years of patterns. You think that's what this is about? Maddox asked. Patterns. He leaned forward now, chains rattling softly. Let me tell you what this is really about, detective. It's about a department that needed a quiet ending. A town that couldn't stomach the idea that a girl died because the man with the badge decided she owed him something. So they let the boy vanish. Let the father carry the guilt. And let me walk away, because the alternative was admitting that the rot started at the top. Naomi held his gaze. You're saying they knew. Not at first, he said. But suspicion spreads. Hale figured it out. Or at least part of it. He knew his kid didn't have it in him. Not really. But by then it was too late. The story was written. And stories, detective, are harder to erase than prints. So why are you talking now? She asked. Why let any of this slip? He leaned back again, eyes half-lidded. Because it won't matter. You can scream it into microphones. You can march it into court. But I know how this plays out. They'll bargain. They'll minimize. They'll say I was just another lonely cop who crossed a line. You think anyone will want to hear that their hero detective helped me bury it? That their cold case closure was a lie? Naomi's voice dropped to a knife edge. They're going to hear it whether they want to or not. He studied her. Something calculating moved behind his eyes. You really don't know, do you? He murmured. Know what? That you're not just digging into the past, he said. You're digging into something that's still moving. For a moment she thought he meant himself. Then he smiled. You're wasting all this fire on the wrong ghost, detective. The kid isn't dead. The room went very, very still. Naomi's mind flashed to the truck at the cliff. The wallet. The note. Présumé de suicide. No body. Only tire marks and waves. You're lying, she said. But her voice didn't sound as certain as she wanted it to. Maddox shook his head slowly. You're the one who taught me to respect the evidence. No body, no jump. Just a convenient vanishing point. You really think a boy who's been running his whole life would choose that kind of ending? He didn't die. He just did what he's always done. Her throat felt dry. You've seen him. I've seen traces, Maddox said. Transfers. Small things. A name on a job site list. A camera glitch in a motel lobby. You're not the only one who knows how to dig, detective. I've been watching my loose ends for 20 years. That boy is out there. Breathing. Remembering. Where? She demanded. Maddox smiled again, slow and poisonous. If I told you that, what would I have left to bargain with? She sat back, heart pounding, the walls of the room suddenly too tight. He had turned the table without moving an inch. Now the cold case wasn't just a file. It was a man with a fingerprint on a door. And a boy with a ghost on his back. Naomi stood up, gathering the photos, the sketch, the ring. You just admitted more than you think, she said. And I'll use every word of it. As she reached the door, his voice followed her. Detective. She paused, hand on the handle. When you find him, Maddox said softly, ask him what he remembers. Not about the night. About the painting. She turned confused. What painting? The one she never finished, he said. The one he watched her work on while you all thought she was just teaching him to draw. That's where the truth is. Not in your prints. In the picture he carries around in his head. The one I tried to tear out and failed. Naomi left the room. Outside, the hallway buzzed with routine. But in her chest, the tempo had changed. The murderer was in custody. The cold case finally had a face and a fingerprint. But now the story had split in two. One path led to a courtroom, a trial, a headline. California 2003 cold case solved. Hidden fingerprint exposes murderer. The other led somewhere else. To a boy who had disappeared before he learned how to stop running. To an unfinished painting in a dusty evidence room. To the memory of a sunset that might hold the real reason why Lauren Kinsey died. And until she found him, until she heard his version, the case might be officially solved. But the truth was still missing. The sun was bleeding through the blinds when Naomi stepped back into her office. Her desk looked like a crime scene of its own, files, empty coffee cups, fragments of lives scattered across the surface. She dropped the interrogation transcript on top of everything and stared at it. Maddox's words kept echoing. The kid isn't dead. Ask him about the painting. It was ridiculous. It was manipulative. It was exactly the kind of psychological trap he would set. And yet, something about it had the ring of truth. Maddox had lied to protect himself, yes. But about the boy? About Thomas Hale? He hadn't needed to lie. The story was already clean. If he was trying to throw her off, he would have chosen something simple. Not a painting. Not a ghost. Naomi pulled up the database again. Thomas Hale, declared missing 2003. Reappeared briefly under alias Tom Harlan in Reno 2010. Presumed deceased 2019. No record of a confirmed body. No fingerprints collected at the scene. No dental match. No DNA. Presumed. One word that meant nothing. She opened a new search query and typed slowly. Tom Harlan, Mechanic, Nevada, 2010 to 2019, associated aliases. The system churned. Then one by one results started appearing: job sites, motel check-ins, a used car registry. Each one ended with the same detail. No current address on file. But one entry stood out. A work order from 2022, just 3 years old. Same handwriting as the note left at the mechanic shop. The job? Engine rebuild, Santa Rosa, California. A signature at the bottom: Hale. Naomi's pulse spiked. The boy hadn't drowned. He'd come home. She drove north the same day, chasing the line of the Pacific. The radio was off. Her car was filled with the kind of silence that doesn't rest. She watched the road curve through the fog, thinking about how 20 years could vanish under bureaucracy and convenience. A department closing its eyes. A town sealing its wounds with headlines. By the time she reached Santa Rosa, the sun had dropped low, painting the streets gold. She found the address from the work order. A small auto shop behind a gas station, the kind that looked like it had existed since the 70s. The sign read Harbor Engines and Repairs. The bay doors were closed. Inside, the light was still on. Naomi stepped out of her car, the gravel crunching under her boots. Her hand brushed the holster at her hip, out of instinct more than fear. She pushed open the side door. The smell of oil and dust hit her immediately. Inside, a man stood over an engine block, sleeves rolled up, grease on his hands. He turned at the sound. He looked about 35. Beard rough, eyes deep set, the kind that had seen too much. And yet she recognized him. Not from photos but from the way silence gathered around him. Thomas Hale. For a moment neither spoke. Just the faint hum of a fluorescent light between them. Then he said quietly, "You're late." Naomi froze. "You knew I was coming?" He smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You work a case long enough, you start to feel the footsteps. Someone always comes eventually." She stepped closer. "Thomas. I'm Detective Rios. Elk Haven PD." He nodded once, as if the name meant something he'd already accepted. "I figured. I need to talk to you about Lauren Kinsey." The wrench in his hand stopped midair. His jaw tightened. "You people really don't quit." "She deserves the truth," Naomi said. "So do you." He set the wrench down, wiped his hands on a rag, and leaned against the workbench. For a long time he said nothing. Then quietly, "The truth doesn't fix anything. It fixes the record," she said. He looked up at her then, eyes burning with something that wasn't anger but exhaustion so deep it bordered on violence. "The record," he said softly. "You think this is about paper?" Naomi didn't respond. She waited. Finally he exhaled, voice low. "I went to her house that night. I heard her scream. The door wasn't locked. I ran in. Maddox was there. He had her by the wrist." His hands flexed unconsciously. He looked at me like I was the interruption. "What happened then?" Naomi asked. Thomas's voice grew tight, clipped. "I grabbed him. He hit me first. I went down. She tried to run. He stopped, swallowed hard. I don't know what I did next. When I got up, she was on the floor. He was gone. And she wasn't breathing." Naomi leaned forward. "You didn't kill her." He looked at her like she was naive. "I might as well have," he said. I froze. I didn't stop him. I didn't save her. "You were 16, she said. "You were a child." He shook his head. "Not to him. To him, I was just another problem to bury." Naomi took a step closer. "He told me you were dead." Thomas laughed once, bitter, sharp. "He's been killing people with stories his whole life. I just let him kill me on paper." "Why come back?" Naomi asked. "Why risk being found?" He hesitated. "Because I heard he was getting old. Because part of me wanted to see if the town still remembered. And because—" He looked past her, eyes distant. "Because of the painting." Naomi's heart jumped. "What painting?" "The one she was working on when she died." She nodded slowly. "The sunset." He shook his head. "That's not what it was." Naomi frowned. "What do you mean?" Thomas reached under the workbench, pulled out a wrapped canvas covered in brown paper. He set it on the table, unwrapped it carefully. It wasn't the ocean. It wasn't a sunset. It was a portrait. A man in uniform. Cold eyes. A gold ring glinting on his finger. Cole Maddox. Naomi stared, speechless. This was in her house? Thomas nodded. She started it after he started showing up at the school. She said she wanted to capture his face the way it really was. I think she meant she wanted proof. Something she could show people if he ever went too far. "And he found it," Naomi whispered. Thomas nodded again. "He came to destroy it. To shut her up. But when I came in, he panicked. He thought I'd seen. Maybe I had. He left me with the mess. And my father, he came right after. Saw the blood, saw me, and made his own choice." He laughed then, hollow. "He thought he was saving me. All he did was save Maddox." Naomi felt her throat close. "We have the fingerprint now. The ring. The confession." "He's in custody." Thomas's expression didn't change. "You think that means it's over?" "It's justice," she said. "No," he replied. "It's a headline. The town will get its closure. But me? I still see that kitchen every time I close my eyes." Naomi wanted to say something, to offer the words police always reach for when there's nothing left to give. But before she could speak, Thomas asked quietly, "How's my father?" Naomi hesitated. "He's tired. Regretful. He still blames himself." Thomas nodded slowly. "He should." Naomi frowned. "You still hold that against him?" He made me disappear, Thomas said. He made me into a story he could mourn instead of a son he could face. You don't come back from that. He reached for the canvas again, ran his fingers along the painted edge. You're going to take this, aren't you? It's evidence, Naomi said softly. It proves motive. Maybe even premeditation. Thomas looked at her, something dark moving behind his eyes. Evidence doesn't fix ghosts, detective. I'm not here for ghosts, she said. Yes, you are, he murmured. You just don't know it yet. Later that night, Naomi sat alone in her motel room, the painting propped against the wall. She couldn't stop staring at it. The eyes were too alive, too present, the face of a man who had finally been caught, and yet somehow still had power over the air in the room. Her phone buzzed. A message from headquarters. Maddox found dead in holding. Apparent heart attack. Autopsy pending. Naomi's hand tightened around the phone. Too convenient. Too clean. 20 years of silence ending in one final silence. She called the precinct immediately. The officer on duty confirmed it. Unresponsive at 10:42 p.m., no signs of struggle. Natural causes, they said. But Naomi didn't believe in natural endings anymore. She turned back to the painting. The brushstrokes around Maddox's ring were thick, layered, deliberate. Almost as if something had been painted over. She looked closer. Under the right angle of light, faint outlines appeared beneath the layers. A smaller hand, a boy's hand, painted in shadow behind his. She exhaled slowly. The painting wasn't just proof. It was a message. Lauren had hidden something inside it. She packed it carefully, locked it in her trunk, and started the car. There was only one place left to go. Raymond Hale's house. If Maddox was dead and Thomas was alive, there was still one man left who could explain how everything had stayed buried for 20 years. The father who'd cleaned the blood. The detective who'd believed in order above truth. The man who'd spent half his life defending justice, and the other half betraying it. As Naomi drove through the dark toward the coast, the highway wound like a scar through the hills. Somewhere out there the Pacific waited. The same ocean that had once hidden a body that never existed. And in her back seat, the painting sat in silence. Watching. The road to Raymond Hale's house curls along the edge of the ocean like a scar that never healed. Naomi drives with the windows up, the sound of the surf muted behind glass. The painting in her back seat like a silent passenger watching the coastline roll past. She has Maddox's death notice open on her phone. The words burned into her mind. Apparent heart attack. Natural causes. Nothing about this case has ever been natural. By the time she pulls into Hale's cracked driveway, the sky is sliding from blue to gray. The porch light is off. The house looks smaller than she remembers, swallowed by salt and years and regret. She takes the painting out of the trunk, the brown paper rustling in her hands. Feels heavier now. As if the canvas has absorbed every lie attached to it. She knocks. Footsteps. The faint scrape of a chain being unlatched. The door opens. Raymond Hale stands there in an old sweater, hair whiter than the last time she saw him. His eyes go first to her face, then to the canvas in her hands. He doesn't say hello. He just exhales a soft, defeated sound. You found him, didn't you? I did, Naomi says. He's alive. For a second, his legs look like they might give out. He steadies himself on the doorframe. Thomas, he whispers, as if testing whether the name still works. Where? Santa Rosa. A repair shop. He's been there for a while. Raymond closes his eyes. When he opens them again, something inside them has shifted. A crack in a dam that's held for too long. He steps aside. Come in. The house smells like old wood, dust and coffee gone cold. The same commendations still hang on the wall. Photos of solved cases. Smiling officers. A younger version of him shaking hands with a mayor no one remembers. Naomi carries the painting to the small dining table and sets it down. She unwraps it carefully. Maddox's face stares back at them from the canvas. Uniform. Cold eyes. Ring glinting on his hand. Raymond's jaw tightens. I took that from her house, he says quietly. I shouldn't have, but I did. It wasn't in the official inventory. I told myself it was personal, that it didn't matter. But that's a lie. It mattered more than anything. You knew what it meant, Naomi says. You just didn't want to see it. His throat works. Back then, Maddox was the department. Commendations. Clearance rates. Everyone liked him. He knew how to make the right people feel safe. I knew he was rough, but I thought. He breaks off. It doesn't matter what he thought. He was wrong. Naomi pulls out a chair. Sit. I need you to hear everything. He lowers himself slowly, hands trembling slightly as he folds them on the table. She tells him the story in pieces, careful, precise. The reanalyzed doorknob. The hidden fingerprint. The ring bruise. Evelyn Kinsey's memory of a crest. The search of Maddox's house. The ring. The clippings. The board with Naomi's picture pinned in the center. The interrogation. The hints. The half-confession. The words. The kid isn't dead. The trail to Santa Rosa. The mechanic who turned around when she opened the door and said, "You're late." Raymond stares at the table as she speaks, eyes unfocused, like he's watching the story replay through fog. When she finishes, he whispers, "He saw me as the villain. My own son." "He saw what you let him carry," Naomi says. "He thought he killed her. For 20 years. Raymond swallows hard. Thomas said something that night. I've replayed it in my head 1,000 times. I thought he was confessing. Now I wonder if I just heard what I wanted. "What did he say?" she asks. Raymond's voice drops. He was on the floor, shaking. He kept saying, "I couldn't stop him. I couldn't stop him." Back then all I heard was, "I did this. I did this." Naomi feels the words hit like a body falling. One pronoun. One shift in meaning. A whole life rewritten. "You called Maddox that night," she says. "Didn't you?" Raymond nods slowly. "Lauren called me from the house. She was scared. Said Thomas was there, wouldn't leave. Her voice was small. I was on the highway. I told her to lock the door. I said I'd send someone until I could get there." His hands curl into fists. "I sent him." The words hang in the air like a verdict. "You trusted him," Naomi says. "I thought I did," he replies. "He'd been my partner for years. I thought he'd de-escalate, keep everyone breathing. Instead, he looks at the painting, at the face staring back. At some point the job stopped being about protection for him. I should have seen it sooner." Naomi gestures to the canvas. "There's more here than just his face." Raymond frowns. "What do you mean?" She stands, walks to the sideboard and grabs a small desk lamp. She angles the light across the painting, not straight on but low and slanted, so the brushstrokes cast tiny shadows. Under the glare, the surface changes. The thick paint around the ring catches the light. Beneath it, faint lines emerge. A hand smaller than Maddox's, fingers curled, painted over in darker tones. Raymond leans closer. "What is that?" "Underpainting," Naomi says. "She hit something when she painted him." She adjusts the angle again. Now, just beneath Maddox's shoulder, a second outline becomes visible. A partial profile, a boy's jaw, a hint of messy hair. "Thomas." The same lines from the sketch Naomi found in the evidence envelope, buried for years. "She painted him first," Naomi says quietly. "Then she painted Maddox over him. Like she was showing who was in whose shadow." Raymond's breath shudders out of him. His voice is barely audible. "She tried to tell us. And we took the wrong message." Naomi reaches into her bag and pulls out a small UV flashlight from the lab kit she'd borrowed before leaving. Maybe she tried harder than we know. She clicks it on and passes the violet beam slowly over the canvas, focusing on the empty space above Maddox's head, around the edges, near the bottom where the paint thins. First, there's nothing. Just dull glow, pigments reacting. Then, near the lower right corner, faint lines appear. Not paint. Charcoal. Writing. Raymond squints. "What is that?" Naomi leans in, heart pounding. The letters are faint, partially buried under a wash of color, but still there. She reads them aloud slowly as they reveal themselves. "If anything happens to me, it was him." The last word is smeared, but under the beam the impression is unmistakable. "CM." Raymond grips the edge of the table. "She wrote that," he whispers. "And I took this painting and hid it in a box." You didn't know, Naomi says. I didn't want to know, he replies. That's worse. They sit in silence, the UV beam washing over Maddox's painted features, over the ring, over the ghost of a boy beneath his hand. Finally, Naomi turns off the light. The DA will want this, she says. It's not just art anymore. It's a statement. Her last one. Raymond nods, but his eyes are far away. I keep thinking, he says slowly, about that night. About the door. When I arrived it was open. Not kicked in. Just open. I remember touching the knob. It was cold. The house was too quiet. He closes his eyes. I saw shoes by the mat. Her shoes. His. The clock ticking. Paint on the floor. And my son in the corner, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. Naomi doesn't interrupt. She lets him finally tell it. I knelt beside her first. Checked for a pulse I already knew wasn't there. The marks on her neck, the bruise on her wrist, the ring impression. I saw it all. I saw enough to know this wasn't a teenage boy's crime. It was a man's. He looks at her, eyes wet. And still, when Thomas said he couldn't stop him, some coward part of me grabbed onto the version where he was the problem. Because that was a problem I could fix. I couldn't arrest my own partner. But I could cover for my son. Tell myself I was saving him. You weren't saving him, Naomi says softly. You were sentencing him. I know that now, he whispers. He rubs his face with both hands, as if trying to scrub 20 years off. When Maddox came by the next day, he didn't even say the word sorry. Just told me the department needed this quiet. That we'd both lose everything if we started pointing fingers at each other. He said if I kept my mouth shut, so would he. So I filed Clara's statement as unreliable. I let the sketchbook vanish. I took this painting home and told myself it was grief. He looks at the canvas, voice breaking. She died trying to warn us. And all I did was help the man who killed her. The room feels smaller. The ocean outside sounds louder, even through the walls. Naomi takes a breath. Thomas told me he still sees that kitchen every night. That he watched you choose the story over him. Raymond's shoulders sag. That's exactly what I did. You can't undo 20 years, she says. But you can stop lying now. To him. To yourself. To the record. He gives a short, humorless laugh. You think he wants to see me? After everything. I don't know what he wants, Naomi says. But I know what the truth deserves. She pulls her phone from her pocket. I recorded our conversation at the shop. He knew I would. He didn't stop me. I think part of him wanted you to hear this. She scrolls, hits play. The room fills with Thomas's voice, older now, roughened, carrying years of rust. I went to her house that night. I heard her scream. He was there. He had her by the wrist. I went down when I got up. She was on the floor. I might as well have killed her. Raymond flinches at his son's words, hand pressing hard against his chest. Naomi pauses the recording. He doesn't blame you for making a mistake as a detective. He blames you for disappearing him instead of believing him. Raymond's eyes glisten. Is he angry? He's tired, she says. Like you. But under that. Yeah, there's anger. And something else. He asked me how you were before he asked about Maddox. That has to mean something. Silence stretches. Then slowly Raymond nods. What do you want me to do? He asks. I want you to tell Internal Affairs everything, Naomi says. No more partial truths. No more protecting a reputation that doesn't exist anymore. I want you to give a sworn statement that clears your son on the record. She hesitates. And I want you to see him. Even if he tells you to leave. Even if he slams a door in your face. You owe him the chance to do that to the man who gave him a ghost instead of a life. Raymond looks at the painting again. At Lauren's hidden message. At the boy in its shadows. I don't know how to talk to him, he whispers. Start with I was wrong, Naomi says. And don't stop there. He lets out a breath that sounds like something breaking and mending at the same time. When? Soon, she says. He won't stay in one place forever. Running is the only thing he's ever been rewarded for. We need to get ahead of that. She wraps the painting again, careful, precise. The paper crackles. As she reaches the door, Raymond speaks again. Detective. She turns. Why are you doing all this? He asks. Most people would have closed the file when the print hit, taken the win, walked away. She thinks of Lauren's wrist, of Evelyn's shaking voice, of Clara at her window, of Thomas in the garage, staring at his own hands like evidence, of the way the word presumed looked on a screen. Because you didn't, she says. He frowns. Didn't what? Didn't do your job all the way through, she answers. Someone has to. He nods once, accepting the blow because he knows it's true. As she steps outside, the wind hits her, carrying the cold breath of the ocean. The sky is darker now. The waves sound like distant traffic, or applause, or ghosts. She puts the painting gently in her trunk, closes it, and stands there for a moment, hand on cold metal. The murderer is dead. The hidden fingerprint has exposed him. The cold case is, on paper, solved. But in the space between a father and a son, in the years shattered by one night, nothing is settled. Tomorrow she will set up the meeting. Two men who've spent decades haunted by the same kitchen. One who ran, one who stayed. And in the middle of them both, a woman who painted the truth and was buried for it. The case file may be ready for its final stamp, but the story is still moving. And Naomi knows, as she gets into her car and starts the engine, that the most dangerous part of any cold case is not the moment you solve it. It's the moment you try to live with what the solution took to reach. The meeting is set for late afternoon, when the light starts to go soft and the building feels less like a machine and more like a memory. Naomi chooses a small conference room at the Elk Haven station. Not the interrogation box. Not the room where Maddox had smiled through his teeth. Something with a window, a view of the parking lot, a slice of sky. Neutral ground. The painting is there first. Lauren's work sits on an easel in the corner, facing the room like a witness who's waited 2 decades to speak. Under normal light it looks like a dark portrait. Maddox in uniform, ring glinting. But Naomi has asked the lab to bring a portable UV lamp. Its case rests by the wall already. Internal Affairs wanted to sit in. So did the DA. So did half the department. Naomi said no. This part, she insisted, isn't about procedure. It's about ghosts. Ghosts don't talk when you turn them into exhibits. She waits alone at the table. When the door opens first, it's Raymond. He steps inside wearing the same old sweater, but he's shaved, and his hair is combed back like a younger man going to court. He looks at the painting, then at Naomi, then at the empty chair opposite hers. He's really coming? He asks. Yes, Naomi says. On one condition. Raymond's throat tightens. What condition? That you don't lie, she says. Not to him. Not to yourself. Not even to make him feel better. He gives a broken half-smile. I wouldn't know how. She's about to answer when the door opens again. Thomas Hale steps in. For a moment the room holds its breath. In another life this could have been a lineup, the older cop, the younger suspect, the detective in between. Instead, it's a family reunion staged in a crime scene. Thomas doesn't look at his father first. He looks at the painting. His eyes lock onto Maddox's face. The ring. The shadow of the boy beneath the paint. His expression doesn't move, but his shoulders tighten like someone just put a hand on him from behind. Then he looks at Raymond. They haven't seen each other in 20 years. Hi, Raymond says, which is the most useless word he could have chosen. Thomas nods once. You look smaller, he says. I feel smaller, Raymond replies. Naomi gestures to the chairs. Sit. Both of you. I'll stay, but if you want me to leave at any point, say so. This isn't an interrogation. Thomas raises an eyebrow. Sure feels like one. It's not, she says. Interrogations are for extracting something. This is for putting something back. They sit. Father on one side, son on the other. The table between them feels too big, even though it's not. For a while no one speaks. Outside the window, the sky is turning the color of old bruises. Inside, the air is thick with 20 years of unsaid words. Finally, Raymond clears his throat. I heard Maddox is dead. Naomi nods. Collapsed and holding. Autopsy says cardiac arrest. Thomas snorts softly. Of course he gets to just stop. Raymond looks down at his hands. He should have died in prison. He should have died in that kitchen, Thomas says quietly. But he didn't. I left. You let him walk. The words hit like a physical blow. Raymond flinches but doesn't argue. I know, he says. I've known it for a long time. I just didn't say it out loud. Saying it makes it real. Thomas laughs short and bitter. It was real for me the moment I stepped in that door. Naomi watches their faces, the way their eyes keep flicking away from each other. Like they're afraid direct contact will set something off. She reaches into her folder and slides a document onto the table. This, she says, is the amended finding from the DS office. Officially, the department is clearing you, Thomas. The record will show you were a witness, not a suspect. There will be a supplemental release. He looks at the paper but doesn't touch it. You fixed the paperwork. Great. Does that give me back the last 22 years? No, Naomi says. It doesn't. But it stops the system from killing you twice. He looks at her for a long moment. There's gratitude hiding under the anger. But it's buried deep. Raymond finally speaks again. His voice is rough. Tom, he says. I need you to hear something. And I need you to let me finish before you decide what to do with it. Thomas leans back, crosses his arms. You've had 20 years to talk. You get 5 minutes. Raymond almost smiles. Fair. He takes a breath, the kind you take before jumping into cold water. I sent him to her, he says. Maddox. When Lauren called and said you were there and she was scared I was too far away. I thought, God help me, I thought sending my partner would calm things down. He'd been looking out for her for months. I didn't see it for what it really was. A man circling something he thought he owned. Thomas's jaw clenches. You trusted him more than me. I trusted the idea of him, Raymond says. The good cop. The one with medals. The one the chief liked. The one the mayor invited to barbecues. I trusted the story. Not the man. He swallows. When I got there she was on the floor. You were in the corner. You kept saying, I couldn't stop him. You were bleeding. Shaking. I saw your hands, saw the blood, saw my own fear. And I let it all twist into the version where you were the problem I could fix. His eyes glisten. I cleaned what I could. I moved what I shouldn't have. I let Maddox stand in my kitchen the next morning and tell me we both had too much to lose to tell the truth. And I listened. I chose my badge and my fear over you. Over her. He looks Thomas straight in the eyes. I was wrong. Not in a small way. Not in a technical way. In the kind of way that destroys lives. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve this conversation. But I can't let you carry a weight that belongs to me. You didn't kill her. I did. Not with my hands. With my choice. The room goes very still. Thomas's face doesn't crack. But his fingers dig into the edge of the table until his knuckles go white. You know what I remember most that night? He says quietly. Not Maddox. Not even Lauren on the floor. I remember you looking at me like I was the worst thing that ever happened to you. Like I'd failed some test you've been giving me my whole life, and I didn't even know the rules. Raymond closes his eyes, pain flashing across his features. You weren't, Tom. You weren't the worst thing. You were the best thing. That's why I panicked. It's funny, Thomas says. That's not how it felt when you let me vanish. Naomi glances at the painting, at the ghost of the boy under Maddox's hand, at the hidden writing Lauren had left herself. She stands, grabs the UV lamp and clicks it on. Look, she says. She sweeps the violet light across the bottom of the canvas. The words bloom out of the paint. If anything happens to me, it was him. CM. Thomas leans forward, eyes narrowing. She wrote that? He asks. She did, Naomi says. Under the last layers. She painted her own safety net. It took us 20 years to spread it. Thomas stares at the words, jaw tight. She believed me. He says, more to himself than anyone. She believed herself. You all just chose not to. Raymond nods, eyes wet. We failed her. We failed you. We failed anyone who ever trusted us to be more than uniforms and paperwork. Naomi clicks the lamp off. The message disappears, but they've all seen it. It won't vanish from memory. Outside, a siren wails in the distance, then fades. Life keeps moving. Inside, time feels like it's standing still. Why didn't you ever come back? Raymond asks softly. After Reno. After the cliff. You could have called. You could have told someone. Thomas lets out a long breath. Because I thought you'd made your choice, he says. You chose the story where your kid was a monster, and your partner was a brother-in-arms. I thought if I came back you'd just pick him again. It was easier to be dead on paper than wrong in front of you. Naomi feels those words like a punch to the ribs. Dead on paper. She thinks of the DA's release waiting in her inbox. Of the draft statement the press team has already started writing. California 2003 cold case solved. Hidden fingerprint exposes murderer. Clean. Efficient. Satisfying. It won't mention that the print was there the whole time. That the department just didn't want to see it. She makes a decision then, one that will make her unpopular, maybe worse. I'm going to insist they add a line, she says quietly. In the official release. That the initial investigation failed. That the department misclassified you. That the cold case was solved because the old evidence was re-examined with new methods and fewer blind spots. Raymond looks at her. That'll make enemies. Good, she says. I'm tired of pretending the only villains we face are outside the building. Thomas huffs out a humorless laugh. You're going to get yourself hung out to dry. I might, she says. But the difference between me and Maddox is I can live with people not liking me. I can't live with another file like Lauren sitting in a box because someone's reputation mattered more than the truth. The room falls quiet again. Raymond wipes his eyes. Thomas, he says, voice barely above a whisper. I can't give you back what I took. I can't be the father you deserved back then. But I can show up now. If you ever let me. Thomas looks at him for a long time. This isn't a movie. There's no swelling music. No dramatic imbras. Just two people trying to stand in the wreckage of a story they both got trapped in. Finally, he says, I don't know what I want from you. I don't know if I can ever look at you and not see that kitchen. But I know this. He nods at Naomi. She did more for me in a few months than you did in decades. And she's not family. She's a cop. Raymond nods, taking the hit. I know. Thomas exhales. But, he adds, slow, reluctant, she thinks you can do one more thing right. So file your statement. Tell them you lied. Clear my name. And after that, maybe we get coffee somewhere that isn't under fluorescent lights. Raymond nods again, a tremor in his jaw. I'd like that. Whenever you're ready. Or never. I'll take whatever you give. Naomi stands. That's enough for today. They rise. Thomas heads for the door, pauses, then looks back at the painting. Keep it, he says to her. With the file. Let it hang in whatever room they send rookies through. Let them see what happens when they believe the wrong man. Naomi nods. I will. He leaves. The door closes softly behind him. For a moment, it's just her and Raymond and Lauren's painted accusation in the corner. Thank you, Raymond says hoarsely, for giving him something I couldn't. I didn't give him anything, Naomi replies. He earned it the moment he walked into that kitchen, and didn't become what Maddox wanted him to be. She picks up the painting. Raymond watches her go. Outside, the air smells like rain even though the sky hasn't broken yet. Later that week, the news crews crowd outside the courthouse. Microphones. Cameras. Bright lights cutting through coastal fog. The press release goes out. California 2003 cold case solved. Hidden fingerprint exposes murderer. The anchors say the line with practice gravity. They talk about new forensic technology. About a predator in uniform exposed years after he retired. About a town finally getting closure. Only a few outlets read past the headline, into the paragraph where Naomi insisted on one more sentence. And the Elk Haven Police Department acknowledges its failure to correctly interpret evidence in 2003, which resulted in the misclassification of a juvenile witness as a potential suspect. The department has formally cleared Thomas Hale of any involvement in the crime. It's not enough. Something. Evelyn Kinsey watches the report from her living room. Lauren's old art supplies still stacked neatly in a corner. She presses her fingers to the TV screen when they show a photo of her daughter, whispering, "They finally said your name right." Clara Jennings hears about it from a neighbor and mutters, "Took them long enough," before closing